everyone. Welcome to episode 22 of the Unusual Suspects podcast.
Stop it. Fuck's sake. This can't run long now because you can't edit that shit out.
Joining me is Penny.
Hi.
Who has had zero caffeine. Yes, is still the loudest one in the room.
She's had about 14 Cokes.
No, I've had
a quarter of a Coke.
2 fat Cokes today, a Coke Zero, and now I'm on the orange Coke.
Not a sponsor. And Andy.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening. You should read out the fucking news, mate. You've got that voice. Hello. Welcome to BBC. You know the people that read out the fucking news every half an hour on the radio? Fucking perfect job.
Yeah, give the travel reports.
Give the travel reports. Everything's fucked. It's all jammed up. You might as well walk.
I mean, that is how I would give a travel report, to be fair.
Fantastic. So today we are discussing, it's a bit of a little collab, I guess, again, that we're doing. We're going to be discussing our favourite documentaries of all time. Definitely wasn't my idea. Yes, it was.
I'm worried that favourite is not the correct word for some of these because they're quite sad or depressing.
Recommendations if you want a good cry for most of them.
Yeah. Or want to see someone go to jail for murder.
Or that.
There's a lot of murdery ones. We should be a true crime podcast. They are super famous. Like, everyone's into true crime. Maybe we should switch.
Well, we've already got an extra show that discusses fucking robot wars.
That's true.
Put it on there if you want to discuss crime, I guess. By the way, plug. Listen to After Dark tomorrow after this podcast goes out. And yeah, for some After Dark topics, I'm sure we've got many to discuss.
I like that you're like, we haven't filmed it, we haven't recorded it yet, so you're like...
Shh, the sausages.
Fucking hell,
The
Pen.
sausages.
You gotta keep that shit to yourself.
Fucking hell.
We're a well-oiled machine.
Don't you guys want to know where your food comes from?
No.
Anyway, do you want to kick us off, Penny?
Can I,
You're
before we do anything,
Yes.
last episode that actually dropped at the time of recording was 18, and we have now hit 1,000 listens.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
thank you everyone.
So shout out to everyone who's listened to it.
Go us.
I mean, only some of those listens. Wait, is that more? Never mind. It's probably more sausage talk. I'm just gonna shut up.
Look, don't piss them off. They've got us to 1,000. Let's keep them sweet.
Yeah.
Only 450 of those were our only listens from ourselves, all three of us. So yeah.
I couldn't listen to us 450 times.
You know what? I'm starting to get sick of us.
I mean, I've said it before. I talk to Penny too much, and honestly, some days I decide to go to bed just so I don't have to talk to her.
Yeah, it's true. I wish he was like this.
It's not even a joke. Like, on more than one occasion, I've told you that I'm going to have to go, Pen. I can't deal with you anymore.
Yep.
What is this, Dr. Phil all of a sudden? Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, thank you very much for 1,000 episodes. Whoa, 1,000 downloads. Jesus, never. But yeah, it's really cool. We published at the end of June, I think it was. We started publishing.
Who knows? I don't even know what day it is today.
Do the maths. Take away 17 weeks.
June the 23rd.
There you go.
Was the teaser. So June the 25th.
June the 25th. So that's pretty good, I think. For a weird, really hard to explain podcast to your friends. It's not bad at all. So thank you very much. Anyway, Pen.
Okay.
You want to kick us off with something happy and something we want to watch that make us feel all warm inside?
You're starting with Pen, the horror fan, for something happy.
Why not? Let's just...
I've got one happy one. Disney Plus fans, the Imagineering Story on Disney Plus is fucking great.
That's new, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all about the history of Disneyland and Disney World and stuff like that, which previous guest Jenny Bennett is a huge Disney fan, whereas I am not so much, but I enjoyed learning how the sausages were made.
Very good.
Yeah. Didn't actually look up how many parts it was, but it's a really long, extensive look at Walt Disney and how they got Disneyland. And there's one in Hong Kong that looks really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
They've got one in Japan, and then they've got Disney Sea in Japan, which I've been to.
California.
She's going to kill me because I don't know all of these. Obviously, Florida, Paris, blah, 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 blah. The one in Hong Kong, because of the Asian culture with ghosts and things, their haunted mansion is completely different because they don't feel the same way we do about ghosts, I think, and spirits and things. Andy looks confused.
Yeah, you're going to have to break this down for me.
I thought that was a big thing for them, isn't it?
So rather than having spirits floating around in their haunted houses, I think they have more of a different view of ghosts than we do. So they've changed it to... Shit, can't remember. But basically, the way they have to change rides for different cultures... That was one of the first things they learnt. So they did, California was the first one. And then one of the major ones was in Japan, I think. And just some of the stuff just doesn't translate. We don't want the same things.
Isn't it that they believe in like spirits, I thought, and they don't want to make a mockery of it. So it's like not a fucking theme park around the dead.
Yeah. So it's a big spooky house, but it's not a haunted mansion. Because before they were like, right, we've built Disneyland. We can cookie cutter that and put it over there. We can put it in a different country. Then they were like, it doesn't really work, which was something I'd kind of never really thought about, how different cultures would kind of see different parts of the rise and be like, oh, I'm not into that, or...
Well, as well as that, Disneyland Paris is shit compared to Florida.
What do they have in the haunted house in Paris? Do they have, like, meat that's cooked too well and the British storming the beaches? Like,
they have the same thing. It's just like there's obviously like French and German language going on, but that's it. I think it's the same, like the haunted house and all that kind of stuff in Paris and America, I think is the same, even though I've only been to 2, but... Yeah, I guess on the Japanese side, it respectfully respect ghosts in a way, I think is what it is.
In Hong Kong Disneyland, it's called Mystic Manor. And it says, although the ride isn't scary, it's considered enchanted.
Ooh, I'm enchanted.
But it's a mansion that Henry Mystic built on an uncharted tropical wilderness. So it's more supernatural. I hate you.
Henry Mystic.
Is it Mystic Meg?
Yes, his husband.
Mystic Meg pops out every now and again.
Such a deep cut.
Talk to Walt. I mean, he wasn't alive by this point. But it's more enchanted and artifacts and things rather than, hey, look, these are dead people ghosts.
I see. How's the documentary?
The documentary is great. It also goes into how they make the rides, because a lot of them they designed for Disney and they'd never been done before, and how they do all that and how they're expanding their technology to do they're doing trackless rides at the minute. So you sit in like a cart like on the Haunted Mansion, but they're doing ones without tracks, but it's all very nerdy, very clever. There's a lot of stuff about all the new Star Wars stuff. But yeah, I watched it with my mum and we both really enjoyed learning all about the ups and downs of Disney, and the way that Disney works fucking fascinates me. The fact that it runs as well as it does all day, like thousands of people, when they change over. I don't know how close together you've been. I went to Disney in October, November, and it was Halloween, and then we went back at Christmas and it was all changed, and they basically changed most of it overnight.
Right.
Not all of it, but the fact that they can just redecorate it overnight to make it Christmas is...
You went 3 months apart.
Yeah, but it'd
be weird if it was like the 20th of December and they were still fucking around with pumpkins, wouldn't it?
Do you know what I mean? That massive space, right? And then one day it's all Halloween, and then if you came back the next day, it would all be Christmas. To do all that overnight and change, they have to take bits of the fucking Disney castle off and put new bits on that have got snow on them. Like all that stuff.
Don't they live in Disneyland, though? All the workers, a majority of them, have like a room in the hotels and stuff, and they just kind of
I don't think
get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 in the morning.
I don't think that's true.
No?
I don't know.
I thought they lived there.
I'd love to see Peter Pan on the metro getting to...
Just getting home for the day.
To Paris.
Because they've got underground tunnels as well, because you can't... So say you were dressed as a cowboy, you can't walk through Futureland if you're a cowboy, because it ruins the magic. So there's all those underground tunnels and stuff.
You've got to work out what that day is where they change everything over and see if you can stay there over that period and then watch it change.
Well, they do show some of it on the documentary. Like when we went, we were chatting to somebody and she said a lot of it is done, like the lighting and things, when we were there for Halloween. She's like, you just can't see it. So a bulk of it is there. Like they can do it throughout the year, or it's there all year round. But yeah, then the park closes at 10 or 12, and then just everyone all hands on deck, because they have to change all the menus on all the kiosks and all these little things. Like for Christmas, they take out a bunch of plants and put loads of like poinsettias and stuff in. It's mad. And the organisational nerd in me gets excited about that shit.
You'd love a spreadsheet for that, wouldn't you?
Oh my God. Like somebody's got to know where everything is, and somebody, oh no. Oof. Get a nerd boner.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, even if you're not that interested in Disney parks and things like that, you're not into rides, because I'm not, or you're not that into Disney, it was a really interesting documentary and I enjoyed it.
Cool. Andy?
I'm going to start with a cheeky little film called Abducted in Plain Sight.
Oh.
Remember this bad boy?
Oh.
I do. Fucking weird.
So the bare bones of this is about a child who's abducted by...
We were way too excited for that
a family friend.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's fucking horrible. Like, by the way, this is a horrible film.
Awful.
Like, really.
It's not even horror. It's just fucking weird.
It is fucking weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
Like, some of the twists in it. There's certain points in it where I was like, this has got to be the end. And then there's like, oh,
yeah,
aliens. And you're like, what the fuck? That's come out of left field.
Yeah, I think we'll give like synopsis for everything without trying to spoil like the key moments and stuff. But yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, so this is about, I can't remember what her name is, Jan something.
Look at us doing research before we record. Oh, wait.
Jan Brobeck. And she gets kidnapped. That's not funny. Don't know why I laughed. She gets kidnapped as like a teenager by her neighbour. And it follows the story of like what happened and how it affected the family. But it goes through some really bizarre twists that you don't see coming.
Yeah.
It's one of the weirdest documentaries I've ever seen where you're like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when it came out, like everyone was talking about it, rightly so, because it's just bizarre.
It's more of a focus on the parents as well, I think. About
the naivety of the parents.
Yeah.
And I mean, saying they're naive for letting their daughter get kidnapped is weird.
I mean, she was kidnapped, but she was also groomed a little bit as well. It was slightly, not that makes it any better, but you know what I mean? It was slightly less, I'm going to grab her and run off with her as well. It was a little more...
Yeah, she was groomed by her neighbour and then disappeared. So like without the context of that, saying her parents were naive is odd. But then you work out how they were manipulated themselves and all the weird bits in it is just odd.
You will literally shout at your TV watching this.
Yeah.
You will literally be like, what the fuck?
I nearly threw the cat at the TV because I was absolutely outraged at how stupid they were. And again, it's weird to call like the parents of an groomed and abducted child idiots, but it's the only way I can work out to describe them because they're fucking morons.
Yeah.
/ very manipulated. Let's not.
Yeah, we're not.
I'll be careful here.
Not victim blaming, but they made some
Yeah.
poor decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is still an interesting watch to kind of understand that how people used to be like back in the day in terms of like, as you said, naivety and stuff,
Yeah.
but and how different it would be now if that was the case. But
It was on Netflix. Not sure if it still is.
I think it still is.
Yeah, I would think so. If anyone wants to watch that.
2017's Abducted in Plain Sight.
There we go. I'm going to go with sort of a happy one. It is a series as well, and it is on Netflix. It's one me and Andy watched recently. The Last Dance is possibly one of the best things I watched this year. It is about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s when they were pretty much the talking point of sports. Even if you do not have any fucking interest in basketball or sports for that matter.
That's where I'm at. You got to convince me.
Yeah, no, honestly, I showed this to everyone who doesn't have a clue about basketball or have any interest in sports, and they all said this is a fucking fantastic series. It is widely regarded as one of the best documentaries of this year in terms of a series.
Did it come out this year?
It did, yeah. It came out just when lockdown happened. I remember episode 1 just kicked off, and it's 10 episodes long.
Fucking hell.
It was the binge watching one. We were in like fucking lockdown for that early March period. It was literally watch The Last Dance.
Yeah. Oh, we'll only be here for a couple of weeks. Let's watch The Last Dance.
Yeah, exactly. Let's watch The Last Dance. Oh no.
8 months later.
But yeah, it's a 10 episodes. It is a long one. It's 10 episodes long. It's about an hour for each episode. I don't know how much I can say about it, obviously without spoiling it, but if you know who Michael Jordan is, obviously one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but it's interviewing him and his teammates and his coaches at the time when the 90s Chicago Bulls were like, they were so big, they were like this bigger than life brand more than a fucking sports team than anything else. They were like, I don't know, I can't even compare them to anything else really. But
they were the biggest team in the world, weren't they?
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows who Michael Jordan is, regardless of if you follow sport at all, because he was that prolific.
Yeah, not just for the basketball, but obviously Air Jordans, which they talk about in this as well.
Yeah.
And his Space Jam that he did and everything that all his side projects that he did and stuff. But it's more in-depth look at him, I would say, his career and how he just is the most... his work ethic in this line, he's just explaining stuff. He just wants to fucking win everything. This guy is insane.
I feel like that's a good way to be if you play sports.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He can get a bit...
He goes overboard.
Too much.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it made me feel guilty for lying on the sofa eating popcorn whilst watching it.
Exactly. I felt so fucking lazy watching this whole thing. I was just like, oh my God.
I don't know if I want to watch that then.
Pen, if it helps, I didn't change any of my lifestyle. I just sat there eating more popcorn going, I should feel bad about this.
Episode 9, here we go. Get some more popcorn.
And then Netflix is like, are you still watching? Yes, I'm fucking still watching it. Shut up, Netflix.
Don't judge me.
That's the point where I put the next packet of microwave popcorn in.
Oh, smart.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people that interviewed for this. There's over 90 people, I think, said even like Barack Obama's in it. There's like Magic Johnson, fucking Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. There's so many fucking people in this thing. It is amazing.
I'm impressed I knew all of those people.
There you go. It is amazing. It's incredibly binge-watchy. Once you watch the first couple of episodes, you will not fucking stop. It is one of the best things that came out this year. The Last Dance, HBO. Fucking watch it. It's amazing. Penny.
Me.
Yes.
Let's get some horror. Into the Darkness is a documentary about 80s horror movies.
Is this the one that's like 18 hours long, but is one film?
Yes. Part 1 is available on my favourite Shudder, and it is 4 hours and 4 minutes long.
For part 1. It's fucking mental.
Yeah. The second part is supposed to be out. I think you can buy it or something now. I actually tweeted Shudder and asked them when we were going to get it, and they haven't replied. So that's sad.
Your best mates.
I'd hope so, but not if they're not going to reply. It basically goes through every year of the 80s and talks about the, I say best, but like the best horror movies, the most influential horror movies year by year, and talks about how great they are. You know, if you're a horror movie buff, there's a bunch of stuff in there that you already know. There was still some other things that I thought, oh yeah, shit, I haven't watched that. Like I keep meaning to watch Pumpkinhead. Haven't got around to it yet. Yeah, it was just really interesting. You know, even there's like a couple of films that I wasn't that into. It's not too long on any one film or anything. So, you know, it moves along at a nice pace.
Right.
So you get a lot of info on a lot of different films. And even if you're like, oh, I hate that movie.
Is it exclusively slasher films though?
No, I think it's just 80s horror movies. I think they'll be like, right, 1980. They'll talk about a bunch of movies. Yeah. 81. The next lot. So yeah, I mean, I watched it a little while ago. You
didn't do it in one sitting though, did you? You took a couple of attempts.
Did I? I think I put it on and then realised it was 4 hours, and maybe I stopped it about 2 hours, and then I think I did the other.
You did, yeah.
It's easily divisible into chunks, because when you get to like whatever the next year is, you can pause it. It's not like it's got like a running storyline or anything. So yeah, if you're a horror nerd, it's probably a bunch of stuff you've seen, but there's some interesting bits. And if you want to expand your 80s horror movie knowledge,
or want to become a nerd like you,
yeah. I do. I really like the way that horror's changed over the years, because we get, as a society, we are scared of different things in different time periods. And it tends to come across in movies, you know, like when more people were worried about nuclear war and things. You know, we're in a zombie phase at the minute. I like to see the way that things changed throughout the years, and you can, maybe not so much with the 80s, but you can kind of chart that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, would watch. Again, I'm very excited for the second half. And Elvira's in the second half.
Oh, hello. I might be in.
Yep.
I'm out. Andy.
What do you know about police corruption in New York in the 80s?
Nothing.
Some?
Oh.
I recommend watching The 7-5.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about something else. Ooh.
The 7-5. All about a copper at the 75th precinct in Brooklyn, I think. And he starts taking bribes from dealers, and then it progresses until he is completely corrupted in that rabbit hole. And it works out, you know, it shows how the net closes around him and all that stuff. It's fucking fascinating.
So what, they follow him or?
Yeah, there's like, so they do interviews with him and other people who are involved. And I think there's some footage as well from various parts.
Is he in jail now, I assume?
No spoilers.
I'll tell you, Benno.
Oh, okay.
That sounded so sad.
No spoilers on life.
I assumed that they'd got him to get interviews. Otherwise, he'd be incriminating himself.
They can interview him in jail, but I can't tell you where he is. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a quick film, because you go through like this dude's early life and then his career, and then it progresses quickly into what he's doing, and he talks through everything that he does, and it's fucking great. Really great. I watched it a few years ago. It used to be on Netflix. Don't know if it is anymore, but it's a strong recommend.
I think I've seen that. Like, I get mixed up. There's a couple of them that are like documentaries focused on corrupt police. I think, is it 13 is another one?
Yes.
Or something like that's on my list as well. Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, it was on my list, but I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't either, yeah. Okay, let's get sad now, everyone.
Yay!
As Dan talks to you about possibly the saddest documentary he's ever seen. Dear Zachary, a letter to your son about his father is... Fuck, man, it's a tough watch, but I'm going to have to recommend it because
I've been putting it off.
It's quite a film.
It's saved on my list and I haven't quite got around to it yet.
Dear Zachary is about a son who lost his father when the son was not born yet, basically. So what ends up happening is the documentary filmmaker made this film, which wasn't meant to be a film in the first place. It was more like here's a video of how good your dad was so that when you grow up, you can watch this and know more about him.
Okay.
So he interviews his friends, family, everyone talks about like how great his dad was and everything, so that when Zachary eventually gets older, he'll be able to find out what kind of guy his dad was. It was never meant to be a documentary, but the circumstances around what happens in this thing turned it into something that had to be a documentary because it's one of the most unbelievable fucking stories ever. The one thing I fucking love about this as well is that the guy who's making the documentary is a friend of the guy who died. Okay. So when he's talking about him, so he's doing the voiceover as well for the documentary, narrating and all this kind of stuff. When he's talking about him, he doesn't take out his cuts. So if he's talking about him and he starts to tear up, he keeps that in there.
Yeah.
So you hear this narrator, it just sounds like a normal narrator. And then all of a sudden he starts crying and you're watching this going, oh, fuck. He literally left that in to like, he doesn't want to do another take of it.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's a really, 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 really fucking sad documentary, but it is a kind of story you have to hear. And yeah, it may have a happy ending. I'm not going to say if it does or not, but it is really, really affecting. And it's amazing editing as well. The editing is so good. It's so good. The editing is so good because, sorry, I love editing, but like things about documentaries that kind of annoy me. And some people will say, oh, fuck off, Dan, you're just being a twat. But I don't like it when documentaries become too much like a cinematic film. The realness of it gets away from me. So something like The Imposter that a lot of people have seen. I don't like The Imposter that much because it feels too much like a movie than it does a documentary. Therefore, that kind of realness and kind of like this is a real thing goes out of the way for me. And this feels like it feels like I picked up a VHS tape from the 90s, put it in and watched a couple of home movies. And that's what it feels like, this kind of film. But it's a fucking insane story. It's incredibly emotional, but I would have to recommend it. Dear Zachary.
I do agree with you with the editing aspect because I'd started to watch The Staircase a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
And got put off by it immediately because it looked so budget and couldn't get on with it at all.
It's not necessarily the budget. I think it's more a case when they have too much budget, when it becomes they're doing 16:9 scan lines where it looks like a movie. It's got really cinematic camera angles when they're interviewing them. They've shots of them cleaning a plate and they look sad. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff where they're like B-roll. Let's get you crying in the background, please. I can just feel like they're saying, get you sad in the background. Can you cry a little bit, please? Like, I just feel like...
Yeah, one of the films that Penn and I will inevitably bring up at some point, there's some cuts in that look almost scripted.
Yeah.
Like for a natural conversation, and it focuses on both person. There's a gap between, and it bounces between them and it looks too clean. So I do agree with you. It can make or break. I mean, much like any film, it can make or break the narrative.
Yeah, I just like a raw storytelling, if that makes sense, but yeah.
You want someone to cry as they're talking about it.
Sort of, and I don't want 20 different angles of them crying, you know what I mean? I just want... if I was sitting down with someone, they're telling me a story, tell me a story. I don't need to have epic angles. It just ruins it for me. But yeah, either way. Going too far on that, but... Penny.
So... there is a series of documentaries that make me more angry than Angry Joyce.
When he's angry.
That's pretty angry.
Yeah, when he's really angry. Paradise Lost is about the West Memphis 3.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see that Andy's already... For those who don't know, the West Memphis 3 were a couple of metal goth kids. Damien Eccles was 18 at the time and he was, standard goth.
Standard smoking goth, yeah.
Yeah, 3 small boys. Now I'm worried I'm going to get all their names wrong, which is really awful. Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, Michael Moore, and they were murdered in their hometown, and they basically had no idea who did it. And someone went, that goth kid did it. So they went, all right then.
Because he looks weird.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they said that they also saw his friend with him, Jason Baldwin, and someone else, Jesse Miss Kelly. They decided that those 3 were the murderers. They managed to get a false confession out of Jesse Miss Kelly, and they got sent to prison forever. Damien Eccles was on death row, and the other 2 were just in normal prison. So the first Paradise Lost documentary it's got a lot of footage from when that happened and the trial. It was just supposed to be a documentary about the trial of these kids. The kids were found it wasn't really in a river, was it? In like a swampy ditch.
It was next to a stream, wasn't it? Robin Hood's something.
Yeah, and the bodies were mutilated. So it was in the 80s with all the satanic panic. So they decided it was ritualistic, so therefore the goths did it.
Wasn't it a Christian kind of area as well? I can't remember. I've seen it like 10 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a very sort of Bible Belt area.
Yeah.
So they inevitably blamed the kids who stood out as looking like Satanists. Like the sort of people like Penny and I who are, and you, are like outcasts and shit.
Yeah.
If we lived in that area, we would have been blamed for it.
Mm-hmm. And Damien Eccles being a proper goth and a bit of an attitude towards authority and the system, and being 18 and thinking, well, I didn't fucking do it, so his attitude wasn't the best, which didn't help him either.
No,
because he was like, well, I didn't do it, so I can't possibly. So the first documentary is about that and the trial, and then later on lots more people got wind of it. A lot of famous people got wind of it, Johnny Depp and Eddie Vedder, and they'd been trying to get them out of jail for a long time. The second documentary there's going to be spoilers in this case, sorry. The second documentary is about them kind of going, they haven't done it, we need to relook at this. You know, there were things like bite marks that they found on the kids, and they tested them against the other 3 guys' teeth, and none of them matched, and they still kept them in prison. And then the third documentary is about, I don't really want to spoil it, is about what happened next.
Yeah.
And what happened for those men at this point, because they were in jail a really long time. And yeah, you'll just watch them and there's just no evidence. It will make you incredibly angry.
They were in there for about 20 years, weren't they?
It's a really long time.
But that first film, the first Paradise Lost film, it got the attention of, as you say, big names, Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder.
The Innocence Project.
Like, they all put their own time and money into helping them out and proving that it wasn't them.
But the DA's office or whatever doesn't want to admit that they failed. And then, a couple of weeks ago, I watched The Forgotten West Memphis 3, which was available on Sky Crime. And it was amazing because my whole thing with this has been like, all right, they always talk about the West Memphis 3, who are the 3 guys that went to jail, which is obviously awful, but everyone just forgets about the kids. But that's the real issue. 3 little boys died and somebody did it and they don't know who it was.
Yeah.
And the Forgotten West Memphis 3, a guy who's just as angry as me, I think he's just like, right, I'm going to investigate this. And he follows up. Like, he talks to people that were not originally talked to in the case. They were like, the police just didn't bother speaking to them, or like they went to knock on their door and they weren't in, so they never bothered again. They went and re-looked at evidence with different experts and things, and they're actually trying to get some DNA tested from one of the ligatures that they found on the boys, but they're having problems getting it released. But he's basically done his own investigation and his timeline to try and work out who it is. And I would really like if in my lifetime we could find out who that was. Even if they can't catch him, I would. That's the one, like, I want to know.
I don't think we will.
If they can test that DNA on the ligature, then we'll be close. But if they can't, then that's it. We'll never know, I think. I think that's the last ditch attempt.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever release it because they don't want to be proved wrong. So they won't ever announce it.
No, which is shitty. Also, Damien Eccles' book, which I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but his book was really good as well. The thing, they get treated a lot worse in death row by the sound of it, which makes sense if you think the awful people that have to go there. But when, it's always the problem, isn't it, when someone's innocent? But yeah, get into that. Last podcast on the left did a great series on the West Memphis 3. It is my, I don't want to say favourite true crime story because that's a weird adjective.
Oh, you ended that so well.
Nice.
It is one of the ones I care about the most.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think it's because it's relatable in a weird way, because you are that snotty kid with an attitude that didn't really fit in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Controversial.
It's not controversial. I'm saying it.
No, it's not.
I'm saying it directly to her. It's not behind her back.
All right.
Well, that's it. If you're like, I didn't fucking kill these kids, you fucking stupid policeman. You know, like you can't, when you're 18, just for that fucking dickheads, I didn't do it. You don't possibly think that they're going to pin it on you.
Yeah. But he's like turned his life around pretty well, because he was in an episode of the Midnight Gospel talking about positive witchcraft and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still into that sort of slightly left field occult stuff.
Whatever gets you through, innit?
Yeah, he's just an interesting dude. He seems to have like learned a lot.
Yeah.
And has played the shit hand he's been dealt.
Mm-hmm. Your turn, Andy.
I am going to bring up the first, what I can assume is the first of a few music documentaries. Music documentaries. Cut that. Someone sort that out.
No, that's staying in. Ronan Keating.
It's the Ronan Keating documentary.
Oh, please, Netflix. You know you want to. Come on. Just call it Life is a Roller Coaster. Fucking get it on there. Come on.
I can't wait for the sequel. Just got to ride it.
Oh, I don't want to watch that.
And then the third one all night long. Anyway, go on.
Montage of Heck. Montage of Heck.
Yes.
Kurt Cobain documentary is stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Explain. I have not seen it.
Have you not? You're really missing out, man. So it talks about Kurt in his early life and how he develops as a kid, and then the sort of formation of...
Kurt Cobain, just to clarify.
Oh, yeah. Did I not say that?
You just said Kurt.
Kurt Cobain, sorry.
Oh, Kurt, yeah. Down the road, yeah.
I mean, music documentary and Kurt, you're probably fine.
Yeah. So it's about Kurt Cobain, right?
Yeah.
He
And you
was
see
in a
him grow up
band with that man
and
from the
develop.
Foo Fighters.
You see him grow up and develop and become like a person, and personal details and stuff, and then the formation of Nirvana and them breaking and stuff. But it's full of like accounts from other, you know, the other band members. You've got unseen footage and backstage stuff, and it's fascinating.
There's some really nice like home movie footage as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like stuff with him and Francis Bean as well, which is the sort of behind closed doors stuff you wouldn't normally see. And just him being a normal dude away from the spotlight. And it only briefly touches on his death. It doesn't really go into it at all. It doesn't approach.
I think Frances had a lot to do with it, didn't she?
She did, yeah. Yeah, I think she had final say on it. But it doesn't go into that at all.
I mean, we all know. We don't need to go on,
No.
you know.
It's not a conspiracy documentary. It's appreciating and acknowledging, you know, a dude who made fantastic music and lived a slightly troubled life. And it's wonderful.
Yep.
Cool. I definitely will probably check it out.
I definitely will probably.
Definitely will probably not check it out.
Whoa.
I will. I too have two biopics. I'm going to gloss over one because I think I can't really decide on one, but you already know what they're about. They're done by the same guy. Amy is the first one, Amy Winehouse. That fucking made me cry. Dude, I didn't expect it to make me cry. I liked Amy Winehouse and I like her music in some sort of way, but I wasn't a huge fan. But Jesus, that made me cry. And then the one that made me cry the first time was one of my heroes, because I like to watch Formula One, is Senna. Senna is probably the documentary that made me want to get into making documentaries, if I'm being honest. Ayrton Senna is considered the greatest Formula One driver of all time. Unfortunately, he died while he was driving, quite young, I think just in his early 30s.
Was he driving his race car?
On track, yeah, he died. I won't say too much about it, but he was considered at the time the greatest driver that kind of never got to live out his career, unfortunately. But he was... The documentary goes through his life, like him growing up, getting into F1. He was a Brazilian guy, and the Brazilians fucking love this man so much. He was just... It's hard to kind of... I mean, you don't have to appreciate, like, racing and F1 and all this kind of stuff to understand, like, how dedicated this guy was. He was just... Compared to everyone else that was driving at the time, he was just on a different level in terms of understanding how every detail of cars, track, everything, the weather, the guy could drive in the rain like it was fucking sunny. He was aggressive. He was ruthless. He would go and do things that you wouldn't expect any other driver to do just to have a win. I won't say any more than that, but he was a ladies' man. He was just He was everything. He was great. I loved him. And he unfortunately died when I was quite young. But I did like read up on him. I read one of his books, or his bio books, whatever you call them. Biograph. Bio, that's it. And then this biography. And then this film came out in 2004, I think, or 5. Yeah, it's a really, really good documentary. And it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's funny, it's sad, it's
speedy.
Might make you angry at French people as well. So if you wanna,
it did for me.
Always a plus.
If you want to be angry at French people, watch Senna.
I'm into it.
I'm into it.
It's a kink.
But yeah, it's fascinating. Penny.
I have a really... It's not that odd, but I don't know how I'm going to explain it. Anyone know anything about the company Enron?
It's on my list. Yes, I know what you're going to talk about, but yes.
Enron, the smartest guys in the room.
Don't spoil it.
No, is about the company of Enron. I still don't...
You still don't know what they do you?
What do they do? Please explain.
I was talking to my dad about it earlier as well. But I know they dealt in an intangible... I can't remember if it was gas or energy or...
It was gas.
It was gas.
I think.
Yeah, so they were this massive company and... I'm trying not to spoil... Yeah, and they dealt in gas, and it's just about the collapse of the... I'm trying not to spoil it, but like, it's fucking...
It's fine, just give me a synopsis. It's fine.
So... Having not seen it, but just knowing a vague outline of Enron, is they were this big energy company, inverted commas energy company,
right?
Who one day went completely bust without telling anyone, and it's how they get to that point.
Yeah,
is what the documentary is about.
So they went bankrupt, but didn't tell anyone they went bankrupt.
Well, there was no run up to it. They kept it all really quiet, and then just went, "We're fucked." Bye.
Yeah.
Oh.
It would be like HSBC
BP
or BP. Sure,
yeah.
BP. Saying everything's fine, and then the next day shutting everything, and everything is gone.
Ruined a lot of people's lives.
No sandwiches at 1 a.m. Fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a bit like Abducted in plain sight when you watch it and they're like, yeah, they did this, and you're like, what? How can you?
Yeah.
Like, not really a spoiler, but at one point they're like, right, so we made, like, say, we made $1 million this year, so next year we're gonna make $5 million, and whoever they were, were like, can you prove it? Like, do you know that? And they're like, no, it's fine. They're like the projections. They're like, yeah, we will. And there's no...
Is it merely a case of the people who run it are psychos in a way, or they're just deluded? Or is it a case of there's something weird going on here and it'll be explained later on?
No.
I think it's financial fraud to an extent.
Yeah. Right.
Like I think after that, there were stricter financial regulations in the US around like banking and energy.
Right.
Yeah, because they were literally telling people like, well, the company's worth this much this year, so it'll be worth twice as much next year, without any maths or paperwork or anything. They were just like, yeah, it's worth that much.
Yeah, they never had anything in paper. So they would say to people that they were worth like 500 million and they had nothing.
Yeah.
A bit like Fyre Fest, right?
Ooh, we'll get to that.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like a massive American company
Yeah.
Had hundreds of thousands of employees and no money.
But were run by idiots. Well.
Yeah.
And you were just like, how is that allowed? There's also a fairly cheesy Enron movie starring Christian Kane, who I love. It's not worth watching compared to the documentary. And I also went to see Enron the musical, and that was fucking great.
Enron the musical.
Why are you so obsessed with Enron?
The fact that they can just get away with going, like the whole, I don't know why I'm obsessed with Enron, but the fact that you can just bullshit. I mean, like you say, you can't now, there's greater regulations and stuff, but just be like, blows my mind that they can just go, yeah, we're worth $500 bajillion. Oh, can I check your books? No, it's fine, don't worry.
Nah, trust us. They're all good.
Madness. So there you go.
Well, speaking of people bullshitting, I watched Sour Grapes about a wine connoisseur.
Of course you did.
Didn't know where this was going.
This is right up your street, man.
So in the 90s, maybe slightly later, there was like a big sort of boom for wine and like
Everyone loves wine.
When I'm saying, like, I'm not talking about your £4 cheap bottle from Aldi. I'm talking, like...
Right, okay.
Other wine stockists are available.
You had 17-gram bottles of, like, Merlot.
Your Chardonnay.
Yeah, and this is about a dude who sort of strolls into the scene, flashing his cash around, and has such a nose for it that everyone just believes he's this insane sommelier. And he might not be. He might not be a sommelier. And it's all about, you know, the people who get trapped into it, the auction houses that sold like millions and millions of dollars worth of wine on his behalf, and what happens to him. It's fucking weird.
It's weird that it's a wine that's the...
Well, it's big money, isn't it?
It must be weird if it's a documentary about a wine company. That's all I'm thinking. Like, it must be strange.
It's just one guy. It's one guy.
One guy and his wine.
Yeah, but the fact that he's using a wine company and it's, as you say, controversial, maybe, I guess. But it's...
Just sounds like a lot of these are about people that are like, yeah, I can do this thing, or I've got this thing, and they lie.
The thing is, you've got to be a character to have a documentary made about you.
That is true, yes.
Does that mean I'm the only one that's going to get one out of this?
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. It's got some, like, big names that were affected. There was a big US businessman and a director somewhere who had it. There's a French wine Sherlock Holmes. He travels to America to sniff out the sources and stuff.
What, of grapes?
Yeah. He's from Burgundy. And he's, like, absolutely offended that his wine is being touted as shit. So he fucks off to New York to track him down and does a load of investigating whilst he's there.
Was the wine underworld this, suspicious? I never knew it was this crazy, I guess.
Didn't know there was a wine underworld.
Yeah, maybe. There's like a black market.
It's not black market.
Well, that's what I thought.
It's not black market wine. It's legitimate wine. It's just some wine is very expensive. Like if you find...
That's what I'd call my wine.
Legitimate wine.
Yeah.
Pennies, legitimate wine.
It would be piss. But I'd call it legitimate wine.
Fucking hell, I'm not drinking that.
Not my piss. I don't drink enough water.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm crashing. I'm getting tangenty.
Stop drinking Coke. Anyway, this one's a bit of a wild card because it's... Okay, so Room 237 is a recent... Oh, actually, 2012. That's quite not recent at all.
I wanted to watch this.
It's a Shining one, right?
Okay, so it's so hard to explain to people, but essentially what it is a documentary where they rounded up a bunch of fans of The Shining, and in this documentary, they're just these fans speaking about theories about The Shining. So things you can see that are... Because Stanley Kubrick was like a madman when it came to attention to detail. So are his fans, by the way. And it's essentially a documentary, kind of like a YouTube video or a podcast, where they're running through The Shining in different scenes, and then you hear a voiceover from different fans and stuff saying, oh, this is why this is like this and this is like this, because Stanley Kubrick was referencing Hitler and these things. And it's just like, okay, right. So it's essentially film analysis, the documentary, but there are some things, I think, for people who love The Shining, like myself. I wanted to watch it because I love The Shining, and I've noticed things myself when I watched it, so I kind of wanted to see from other people if they've picked up other things. There is a lot of things that they pick up. Some of the things in this are bonkers that they think that's the way they are. One example, without spoiling it, is that if you play The Shining backwards, it tells a different story to what you may think it might be about. The other one is there's a freeze frame of Jack Nicholson when he's switching between scenes, or they're cutting between cameras. And at one point, there's a still frame, like something you find out of... what are those things? They had the adverts when they had the subliminal messaging kind of things, where they think that like there's a mustache on Jack Nicholson, and they go, that's obviously Hitler.
What?
So
no,
I mean, the thing is, it sounds silly, but they do back it up. And I'm sat there going, okay, that's ridiculous. And there's a big one to do with the moon, and I won't go into it, but that one I thought was stupid. And then they showed a bunch of scenes in The Shining, and I went, oh, maybe.
Oh, we all know the moon stuff though, right? That he supposedly directed the moon landing.
Yeah, they supposedly Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landing. I won't say why in The Shining because they show you in this film in a dramatic way and it's quite a payoff. But yeah, there's a theory that Stanley Kubrick did direct the moon landings, and in The Shining there's a lot of references to it.
There are a lot of hints.
But yeah, it's a weird one. It's film analysis or film students of film. Where they're just talking. Penny will love it.
I don't hate film students.
Well, they're just talking over The Shining. I know, but it's just theories. It's theories, the film, theories what you think Stanley was trying to say in this, and some secrets he was trying to expose or things he might have known about that he's trying to put in. He was a fucking madman, by the way. So, like, if anyone doesn't know anything about Stanley, read up on him. He's crazy, dude.
Imagine if it was just nothing. Like, it was just he made the movie and it was exactly how it is. Everyone would be so disappointed.
Well, there's things that differ from the book, though. So
yes.
C-37 is the room in the film. In the book is something like 216.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, so things you wouldn't need to change.
Unless you're trying to prove a point or make something suggestible.
Yeah.
Stephen King, the writer of Shining, hates the movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the Shining movie at all. So even he fucking despises it. So I think it's a hard one to sell because it's a bit of a walkout. But if you do have an interest in my eyes, one of the best films ever made, I think it's an interesting watch.
Yeah, or an interest in conspiracy theories, because
yeah.
I think a lot of it goes into that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's a fan film, but yeah. Pen.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark is a 6-part documentary from HBO, which was recently on Sky Crime, or maybe just Sky. I don't know. It tells the story of the Golden State Killer, also known as the East Area Rapist, and the original Night Stalker. I'm so bad at trying not to give stuff away.
Have I seen this?
It's fairly recent. It's based on a book. So, do you know the comedian Patton Oswalt?
Yeah.
Who's in a bunch of stuff. His wife, Michelle McNamara, was writing a book to try and find out who the Golden State Killer was. He was, a murderer and rapist between 1973 and 1986, and they hadn't caught him.
Yeah, I remember reading up on it, I think. I'd not seen this then. Yeah.
Is it Richard Ramirez?
No, he's the other Night Stalker. It's really dumb. So he was called the original Night Stalker, the East Area Rapist, and then they worked out, because it was in different areas. So now he's the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
She started writing a book about it. I'm going to have to... He was apprehended in 2018, and he is currently... I think he's just been sentenced recently in the last couple of months. I think he got 12 life sentences plus 8 years.
Does Patton Oswalt narrate it?
No, but he's in it quite a lot. So I'm going to have to give you a bunch of details, but it doesn't spoil it. So yeah, Michelle was trying. She was really interested in this case. And she was like, we must be able to work out who this guy was. Unfortunately, she never got to finish her book. She passed away before she could finish it. So there's some nice footage of her like interviewing, and there's a lot of footage of her. There's a lot of bits of Patton in it as well, because he, obviously he's her husband and he knows all about it. Like her friend, she started working with a detective called Paul Holmes to basically they were like, we're going to go through all these boxes, police don't have time to work on this anymore. And between her and her investigation and her book, and with Paul Holmes, they managed to find out who he was and capture him. And now he is in prison for a really long time, which is good. But the documentary is one part the story of him and how they caught him, which was really interesting with like the advancing technology and things like that. And the other part is about her and writing the book and how she got completely, like it was everything to her. So, And then obviously when she died, her friends and family and stuff were like, right, we've got to finish this book. We've got to get it done. We've got to do this for her. But yeah, that was on fairly recently. So if you're into true crime, it's just amazing that, he stopped in 1986 and then they caught him in 2018. It was a horrendous fucking douchebag. He did some awful, awful things. They talked to some of the victims. He notoriously, eventually, as he would escalate, he started breaking into houses and tying up couples. So it's kind of smart. He would tie the man up and he would put a stack of plates on their back, and then he would take the woman off and he was like, if I hear those plates move, I'm fucking killing her.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they couldn't even try and get away because if those plates made a noise.
It's clever.
Some of the survivors have been brought together in like a group and they're all friends now. It's a nice ending for a fucking horrible, apart from poor Michelle, but it's a nice satisfying ending, and then just he ruined so many people's lives. Like he ruined Michelle's life because eventually she died because of this, trying to expose him. But it was, really good documentary.
Remind me of the name?
I'll Be Gone in the Dark. Originally on HBO. So I think that's why Sky have it, but I imagine it's available. And I'm looking forward to reading her book.
HBO has some cracking documentaries, got me off. Andy, cheer us up.
Okay, should we talk about amnesia?
Shall we?
Not going to cheer anyone up.
Welcome to the depressing podcast.
I've still got some happy ones. You're all right.
I don't have any. None of mine have been happy, in fairness.
I may have one left.
Oh, I've got a bunch. That's fine.
So tell me who I am, Dan. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
So it tells the story of two twins, a pair of twins, a set, you could say.
DOS twins.
Yeah.
Two brothers who were born at the same time.
Clarified.
From the same womb.
Mum and Dad had sex.
When mum and dads love each other very much.
So it tells the story of two brothers, Alex and Marcus Lewis. And Alex has a motorcycle accident when he's 18, fucks himself up, and loses all of his memories.
That's not funny. It was just the way you said it. Sorry.
It's outrageous.
We could have edited it out, but now we have to put it in.
We
to
can
clarify.
now. We can still edit out.
I'm not going to.
I think it's my turn, so that's fine.
Not going to now.
Before Penny started laughing, we... So it tells the story of him. He's got amnesia, and his brother, his twin, obviously, he recognises him immediately when he wakes up. So he uses his brother as a crutch to learn things again. So he has to learn sort of everything from what a table is onwards to like how to live, essentially. There are some very harrowing moments in this. I'm not sure if I should bring it up now.
No.
Okay, there's developments that happen that his brother decides not to talk about and tell him about. He tries to build him like the perfect childhood.
Yeah.
So you can't remember it. And it is a tough watch.
Yeah.
I watched it this morning and then followed up with an equally tough watch and was like, why am I doing this to myself?
Was that your morning watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
9:30,
Christ.
I put on this film.
No.
Got your coffee going.
Yeah.
Watch this.
That wasn't a good idea. That's why you're in a bad mood.
Well, I also watched, unrelated to this, I also watched Ready Player One and I've got some issues with it.
Oh man, don't get me started. Fucking
We'll
hell.
talk about that later.
Oh yeah.
But it's a brilliant documentary. It looks like lovely. There's moments where they're sat opposite each other, talking to each other. They are the moments that look slightly too edited for me. They look scripted, but
Yeah.
I feel there's a pause between them each talking to each other, so you can see their faces change as they're hearing certain things.
And just to take it in, like what you're hearing and what
Yeah.
you and him are hearing it for the first time and stuff, to let you
Yeah.
process it is, yeah.
It's a heavy one.
It's not
It's a heavy
a
one.
fun watch.
It's not a breakfast movie.
But do watch it. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Really interesting. And to, like, personally, I'd like to know 5 years down the line how things have changed for them.
Me too, yeah.
I think there will be developments and stuff from it, but it is fascinating. Not one to watch whilst eating your Cheerios.
Okay. Another Netflix one, The Devil Next Door. It is a documentary about... I'm going to fuck up his name, but I'm going to give it a best shot. It's a while since I watched this. John Demjanjuk, I think is how you pronounce it. Basically, it's a guy who's living in Cleveland. This John character. And he's living in Cleveland. He's a retired mechanic. And what ends up happening one day is someone recognizes him from somewhere. And they're like, he looks like a familiar face. And a Jewish person recognizes him. And they believe this guy who lives in Cleveland is Ivan the Terrible, who used to be one of the worst Holocaust
That's not where I thought this was going.
soldiers ever. He killed loads of people in Auschwitz and various different camps. This is obviously years and years later, but the face, someone recognizes face, is a survivor of one of the camps. So they only have this one photograph that was taken at one of the camps, and they've obviously got him. He obviously denies all of this. He has to go, during the documentary, he gets sent to Israel to actually go into court. And this was in 1981 that this happened. So in 81, all this court hearings happened where he had to go to Israel to go to court to defend himself, saying, I'm not Ivan the Terrible. I am not this man. I haven't killed anyone. It is fucking just... It's really hard because it's a hard watch, but because the people who are facing him in terms of the witnesses on this court case are all survivors, and they literally have to look at this guy right in the eye as they killed his friends, family, whatever that they're accusing this guy of. And he sat there going, I promise you I'm innocent. And I honestly,
don't know.
Halfway through this, I had no fucking idea if he was innocent or not. I couldn't tell. He seemed like, just a normal everyday old dude I think he was in his 60s or 70s or something, and he had like a family and everything. But then you got all these people who have survived a horrific event, and you can't just say, oh, we can't silence you or anything. We have to hear you out. It's a really fascinating watch. It's one of those things you're going to be questioning in your head. Do you believe this person or not? And then there's a lot of new evidence that comes in over time. A lot of things I think we mentioned with crime documentaries a lot is that DNA plays a big part in a lot of these crime documentaries watch when eventually it comes in. And that also comes into play with this, obviously. But it's really, really fascinating. It's a really crazy story. The Devil Next Door.
Without spoiling it, does it have a satisfying conclusion? Like, does it tell you if he is or not?
Yeah, you get the whole story.
Okay, interesting.
But you will be questioning it for the majority of the series. You will just won't know if he is or not. And you don't know why they're accusing him, just based off a photograph, obviously, but that's all they have to go on at this point, and their memories, obviously. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Penny.
Can you give us something cheerful?
Yeah, Penny.
I think it's cheerful.
Christ, I won't.
I've got a couple that are slightly related. Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy.
A happy one, then, yeah.
Is a 4-hour documentary about all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies except that shit remake one that we're not talking about.
That was the best one.
Fuck right. I will leave. I will rage quit right now.
Jackie L. Haley was fantastic as...
Like to see it try.
Off. He's just doing it to annoy me as well. I know he is.
Yeah, you do this to me with every other fucking film I hate, so it's nice to get your own back, right?
What do we all know about Freddy Krueger? He was not a paedophile. But this is a whole... I could do a whole podcast on how he's not a paedophile. Anyway.
I think I might leave now.
Not going to lie, I have seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I probably couldn't tell you what happens in at least 3 of them that I can think of. But if you're even vaguely interested, it's kind of nice to have an in-depth look. I'm pretty sure everyone is involved from the movies. I don't know when it came out and if Wes Craven was still alive. But I think there is some footage of him before he died, obviously.
Well, didn't he only die like a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So, this came out in 2010.
So he would have been alive.
Yeah, but they got as many people in it as possible. It's narrated by Heather Langenkamp, who was Nancy. It's kind of nice. I love Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Which is the really camp one?
2, we'll get to that. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is my favourite, personally. But it's kind of nice if you're interested to get that in-depth look without actually having to watch all the movies. And again, it charts because obviously the first one was supposed to be very scary, and then they obviously got more campy, and Freddy had one-liners, and it wasn't really a scary thing anymore. So kind of how that came about, and just I like hearing stories about movies that I like. So I'm all into that, which then leads on to the one that I didn't write down, did I?
Fucking organised. Do you want to pass it on to someone else while you look up?
No, because it's Nightmare on Elm Street related. Andy mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street 2. There's a whole documentary about it because it has rather gay undertones.
Sorry, explain.
There's a whole thing about whether it was supposed to be gay or whether...
So, sorry. So, do you mean campy, or as in it was a actual gayness going on?
So, we all know about Freddy. He comes out in people's dreams, not comes out like gay, but he comes to you in your dreams and he kills you. The second one, Freddy's Revenge, he comes out through the main character. So the way he can come into physical being, he's getting into the guy's dreams, and there will be bits of, like, he's trying to take over the guy's body. So there's some kind of like he starts to turn into Freddy Krueger. He starts to come out of him. He starts to kind of wear him as a skin. So there's that whole kind of coming out.
What?
But so does Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They wear people's skin and shit.
No, because he's coming out.
I think the analogy is that he's coming out of something like a closet and or a person.
No. Really?
He's comfortable being inside something that isn't a child, because obviously Freddy Krueger's a paedophile.
There we go. It's called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. So Mark Patton was the main character, who happens to be a homosexual man as well. And the story of he was in this movie. It was supposed to be his big break. And then when it came out, everyone was like, it's fucking gay. And you know, when it wasn't really cool to be gay back in 1980, I don't know, 1980 something. Half the story is about the film.
Right.
At one point he goes to a bar and it's clearly a gay bar. Like men in leather gay bar, like stereotypical, not even stereotypical, like 80s satire gay bar.
Like a Village People video.
Yes. Yeah. There is a bit where, I don't know what his name is in the thing, where the main character is in a shower and Freddy manages to tie him up and whip him with a towel while he's butt naked, you know, like they do in locker rooms.
Oh, I've never seen that
we
happen.
tie each other up and whip each other's butt.
So when it came out, obviously it wasn't received very well and it kind of ruined his career. And, you know, people were like, it's your fault, it's gay. And he was like, well, that's how they told me to play it. And it's quite sad how it did kind of ruin his life. And he disappeared for a long time when it, you know, Second Nightmare on Elm Street should have been his big break. But it's now just become a cult classic among the LGBTQ plus community because it is super campy and it's super fun.
That's fascinating. I never knew about that.
Yeah, they also talked to the guy that wrote it, I believe. And he's like, no, I never meant it to be like that. I think because it bombed, he was like, no, it's his fault for acting it gay.
Oh, so just blaming each other for... Okay,
yeah,
right.
and like it is quite sad for the guy that was in it because obviously him being a gay man in a difficult time, getting all that flack for making Nightmare on Elm Street 2 gay and all this shit, it wasn't very nice. But that's on Shudder. That was an interesting watch. I would check out the movie, like the actual movie. I don't know whether it's because it's hindsight, but you watch it and you're like, how did you not think that was kind of gay? Like, I don't know.
Okay. Andy, that's a weird one.
Blackfish.
Of course, yeah.
Blackfish. We can gloss over it quickly. Blackfish is about the orca at SeaWorld, Tillicum, who murdered 2 people in cold blood.
With a knife. Got the fin around the knife.
Yeah, strangled him with his floppy fin. That's worth watching. The other one that I've got loads, but Jim and Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that the Andy Kaufman one?
Jim Carrey.
That was great.
And Andy Kaufman, yeah.
Man on the Moon, yeah.
Yeah. I love Andy Kaufman.
Jim Carrey was doing the role of Andy Kaufman in... Is it supposed to be a biopic, Man on the Moon?
Yeah.
And he goes too far. He goes native with it and...
Jim Carrey goes too far.
Turns into a fucking maniac. And it's all about his descent into madness and how it was a struggle for him to get out of that role and that persona. And
he fucking adored Andy.
You see his like gradual descent.
Yeah, he just method acting gone too far a little bit, but yeah.
Well, they talk about the conspiracy that Andy Kaufman faked his own death in that as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Which I feel like Andy Kaufman's brother at one point was like, it wouldn't fucking surprise me like if he did. I wanted that to be true a little bit because weren't they hinting that if he was going to do it, there were some hints that it was going to be this year or last year or something. And I was like,
yeah.
It's so good if he fucking
and potentially at the premiere of this doc as well.
That'd be
like
awesome.
Tie it together as one long prank.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
It's an interesting one, that one. Watch Man on the Moon first, I would say, though, and then get a bit of an idea of the film. I guess if you know who Andy Kaufman is, then
yeah, I knew who he was to an extent, but I haven't seen Man on the Moon, but I knew who he was to an extent.
Yeah, I think I watched them the other way around.
Yeah.
Loved him in Taxi.
I tried to go for ones that were majority ones, I guess, the ones people probably haven't heard of, but the one that came out, was it last year or this year? Apollo 11 is truly fascinating. It's got just completely unseen footage of the moon landings that is in super, super crisp 4K HD, and I don't know how the fuck they've done it, but oh my god.
Wait, the real one or the one that Stanley Kubrick did?
It was probably Kubrick, yeah.
No, the documentary.
No, but you said they had footage of the moon landing.
Yeah, Kubrick wasn't using the Super 8.
I see. No, this is real footage. And after watching this, all doubts are cleared on whether the moon landings were real or fake. They were fucking real. Watch this documentary. It is some of the most amazing. How this footage has been locked away, I think, for fucking years, and it's so I'm so amazed by how crisp and nice it looks. It just looks amazing.
Surely conspiracy theorists are like loving that for the wrong reasons.
Oh no, fucking watch it. I honestly, after watching it, I had absolutely no reservations of whether the moon landings were fake. This honestly proved it to me.
Yeah, but that must annoy them, I think, is what Penn is getting at, no?
Oh yeah, I assume so. And this got incredibly well known and reviewed and last year, I think, when it came out. And yeah, I guess it did piss them off, but yeah, it's about the moon landings, and it's a bit of a time capsule, and it goes through just basically the start of the mission. The very first shot you see is them about to get into the rocket, and it ends with them getting out. And you see the entire mission in this 2-hour documentary from footage they had while they were on the moon. Stuff I haven't seen, like they're just hanging out. Fucking Buzz Aldrin hanging out eating a fucking Star Bar. It's fucking great. It's amazing.
He's eating a Star Bar on the moon?
It looked like a Star Bar. No,
How is he getting his helmet open?
No, when they're in outer space and they're allowed to take their helmets off and they've got zero gravity and all this kind of stuff. And then it goes back and forth between mission control. There's obviously the whole side of the dark side of the moon, which comes from this as well, when they have to... The best bit in this film is them landing on the moon, because... the dark side of the moon fucking saying comes from this, is where they go behind the moon and the signal gets lost between them and Earth. So they can't contact them for about 10-15 minutes. So they've no idea if they've crashed or not. They're just going goodbye and then silence, and you have no idea where they are. And it's just tense as fuck, because obviously you know what happens, but it's like them sitting in the control tower just going fuck the whole time is amazing. It's an incredible documentary.
Is there footage of the dark side of the moon?
There's footage of, there's a camera they actually placed on the landing craft that was landing on the moon, which I haven't seen before either. But you see the moon from like very far away, and then it just gets closer and closer, and it literally like lands on it. Like you hear the gravel going, like digging into the gravel and shit. I'm so amazed that they haven't released this footage beforehand, because they would have
I was gonna say
they would have just like got rid of all those conspiracy theories so quickly, but they just, for some reason,
they probably don't want to, because it keeps people talking about it.
I doubt anyone's going to be talking about it after this, but yeah, it's really fucking fascinating. Amazing feat in human achievement, and it is 100% real. There's no way they faked this shit. So Apollo 11. Going Clear is also very good. It's about Scientology.
That's a good one.
Very, very good. Don't Fuck With Cats is a Netflix one.
I still haven't watched it.
Don't worry, there's only a little bit of implied cat murder in the first episode.
Yeah.
It's not fun to watch. You don't see anything. But once you get past that in the first episode, there isn't any more.
It's not fun. You don't see that much of the cat. If anyone doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about, Don't Fuck With Cats it's the most rabbit hole fucking things I think I watched recently. I think it came out last year or the year before. Remember when Facebook was really bad at trying to like monetize their content, like about 2 or 3 years ago? These people on like Facebook found this video of this guy vacuuming kittens in a vacuum bag.
Vacuum sealing them, not vacuuming their fur.
Getting rid of the air and everything. You don't see it, but you hear it, which is quite disturbing. So they set off on this kind of neighborhood watch on Facebook, whether
internet vigilantes for that sort of shit are so great.
And they go to try find out who did this. They have no idea, but they have this video, and they try to make clues from the video, like what's on the table, what cigarettes is this guy smoking. Maybe we can pinpoint where it is. But then it goes down just the biggest rabbit hole, and when the film ends, you're like, how the fuck did we get from cats to this? And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy as fuck. Last one, I don't think anyone's seen this. My Brother Jordan is only on YouTube. It's done by a YouTuber. It is a proper documentary, don't worry. The guy who made it was a brother of Jordan. I forgot their second name, unfortunately. His brother died, and it's in a similar vein to Dear Zachary. It's basically retelling how him and his brother used to live and how great he was, and just telling stories about his brother before, like obviously before his death. It's the most viewed free He just put it on YouTube because he put it on there. But it's the most viewed free documentary on YouTube. It is an absolute tearjerker. It took 8 years to make. This guy has unbelievable talent when it comes to making documentaries. He hasn't made a big one so far. It came out last year, but he hasn't made another one yet. But he done an amazing job. He did the whole thing himself. It's fucking fantastic. My brother Jordan, very good.
I have two again, both of the Fyre Festival documentaries. There was one I think more people have seen because it was on Netflix that was called Fyre, The Greatest Party That Never Happened. But I also watched Hulu's Fyre Fraud. So Fyre Festival was only a couple of years ago. Well, it wasn't because it didn't happen. But a couple of years ago, Ja Rule got together with some douchey McDouchebag and decided to do a festival for rich people, which makes it, I don't know, maybe it's me, it just makes it slightly difficult to feel sorry for any of these people.
It was aimed at influencers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was influencers and trust fund kids. So they bought a private island. They're like, we're going to do the biggest, best festival on the beach in a private island. I can't remember who was supposed to play apart from Blink-182. You know, you can get from like cabins on the beach to 10 grand, 50 grand villas. And it was a bit like Enron. Didn't fucking happen.
Yeah.
They made all these promises that they couldn't keep. I was talking with my parents about it earlier, and I said that if you'd got a bunch of grungers from downloading that situation, we would have been absolutely fine. But watching influencers being like, no, I don't have my bags and cheese sandwiches, it's fucking hilarious. But again, it's all the kind of, how the fuck did this happen? To the point where they got people to this island and there was nothing there.
Yeah.
The Netflix one, probably more people have seen. I seem to remember I preferred the Hulu documentary. It seemed to have, not saying Netflix were biased, but I feel like they could say a lot more. I seem to remember them basically saying that the guy that organised it was a douchebag more than...
Yeah, Billy something, wasn't he?
Yeah, it seemed to be a little... Just, you know, maybe Netflix had to be extra non-biased and kind of keep it a bit neat and tidy, whereas the Hulu one, they could... I also feel like they had some actual interviews with Billy as well. They had more footage from him. So if you're only vaguely interested, the one on Netflix will do. If you're slightly more interested, it's worth watching both.
Have you heard that 30 Seconds to Mars are doing something as well like this?
Oh,
They're calling Mars Island.
Yes, I want someone to pay me to go undercover as a journalist
God.
so I can have a massage near Jared Leto.
Let's go to Croatia, or wherever it is.
Technically, Pen, you're a photographer, so you're going to need a writer as well. I will come with you.
Okay. We can do that.
You need someone to film it.
Sold!
Special mentions Lady Gaga's 5'2" on Netflix. As you can possibly guess, Lady Gaga is not the music I usually... same height as me. Not usually the music that I listen to, but I heard it was really good, and I now think she's amazing. She seems like a really cool human being. I didn't realise that she had so much shit going on. It was a Netflix documentary, but it was kind of raw, you know, you got to see all the shit that she goes through as well as the nice stuff. So that was kind of fun, seeing as how I didn't know a lot about her. I enjoyed that one.
A lot of people are praising that Taylor Swift one as well. I haven't seen it, but a lot of people are praising it.
I heard the Katy Perry one was good as well, but I haven't seen that either.
I have no interest in any of them.
I feel like they would annoy me slightly more than Lady Gaga for some reason. The Maddie McCann documentary, the series on Netflix.
Haven't seen it yet.
It was pretty good. Beforehand, I basically was like, the parents did something. They did something by accident. They had something to do with it. I've now watched, I think it's like 4 parts maybe.
I think it's 6.
Is it 6?
At the end of every episode, I was like, they did it. And then the next one, I'm like, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
It's like you flip-flop the whole way through. It's amazingly well made, but...
It's really good.
It's inconclusive.
I don't want to get conspiracy theories, but were they interviewed personally for that documentary?
I don't believe so.
I don't think they were.
Or is it just footage? Is it just
I think it's just
archive
footage.
It's just footage, but
okay.
You talk to neighbours, you talk to local police officers, you talk to like Interpol. It covers a large span of people who have broken it down, like journalists, writers, reporters.
Yeah. It is just mad because you're like, they definitely fucking did it. And then you're like, oh, actually maybe they didn't. I have no idea anymore. Like, it's not satisfying at all.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like an Amanda Knox situation where they get interviewed and they sign off on what happens in this interview, because that wouldn't work. That'd be weird if that was the case.
It's amazingly well done, because I was convinced, and now I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just fucking stupid and they left their kid behind.
I mean, they were definitely stupid and left their kid behind.
Well, yeah.
Who knows?
I do love Louis Theroux's whenever he talks to that fucking awful Westboro Baptist Church.
Twice. Didn't he? Twice, yeah.
Yeah.
And then actually Kevin Smith is friends with one of the girls that's not in the Westboro Baptist. In Louis' documentary, she was the kind of older girl.
Yeah.
And she's not in it anymore, and she's friends with Kevin Smith, which
Really?
is kind of a weird... Yeah, he started talking... I think she got out of the church and he started talking to her on Twitter. And I vaguely remember there being a smodcast with him and her, I think.
Did they not protest Dogma?
Yeah.
And he went out with Scott Mosier, the producer, with signs and also protested his own film.
Yeah. And anything about the Westboro Baptist Church, just hook it into my veins. And Dark Tourist on Netflix, slightly less... Well, I suppose it's still a documentary. It's like creepy, dark travel show, isn't it? And he goes to a radioactive place in Japan, and he goes to Mexico for Day of the Dead, and...
This is where we talked about the guy that was allowing him to torture them. Is that from Dark Tourist as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, the McCamey Manor is the first place that I heard that on, but I watched one the other day, and they go to wherever Pablo Escobar's from, and they have Pablo Escobar tours.
They meet his old bodyguard as well. He seems like the nicest guy in the world, and then he just clicks at him for some reason, and you're like, oh yeah, he's probably killed hundreds of people.
It's supposed to be like 250 people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he just keeps saying to him, you're really likable. I was warned that I would like you. So, yeah, that's a cool little series. You get, like, he goes to a city that's not open yet. Like, this is massive fucking city somewhere in Asia with like an 8-lane highway, and nobody lives there yet, apart from the people that run it.
I was going to say, there's a different city that he went to where he wasn't allowed to go to, and he filmed, and they nearly
got him.
fucked him up.
It's like he went in the sea and tried to swim under the buoys, and they still were like, no.
That city opened its doors last week for the first time ever.
Oh, really? The big one?
Yeah.
Oh.
No. The one where he got arrested.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool, because a bunch of people that lived there couldn't go back, and now they can. So yeah, recommend that one. And that's me out.
So if we're talking about David Fyre, we need to talk about Tickled.
Oh, God.
Because that
I still haven't seen it.
I thought you saw it. I thought Andy was the only one who hasn't seen it yet.
I didn't have time to watch it yet.
Oh, my God. How have you not seen it yet?
It's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
So the same guy who does Dark Tourist, David Fyre, finds...
I didn't know it was him.
Does he find a video on Facebook or something?
Yeah.
Of a guy, like, of competitive tickling. It says dude's, like, strapped down.
Only men.
Yeah. 3 other guys on top of him tickling him. And he tracks it down to this company and then starts to dig further and further. And
it goes too further.
It is mind-boggling.
Oh my, it's so weird.
There's like a really sinister undertone to it all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me feel satisfied at the end.
What did you feel like at the start of it? It was trying to be comedic.
Yeah.
And then at one point in the film, or like I'd say probably second half of it, it just goes like, what? Like I couldn't understand. When I finished it, I was like, I understand what you just told me, but I'm like, how is this a thing?
I know the words that you said, but I can't compute them.
Yeah, I can't compute them together.
There's that twist, and I was like, hang on a fucking second, like, what?
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, that's definitely worth watching. It is fucking insane. 3 Identical Strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved this one. That's not the right term either, is it?
No.
This one made me cross too.
About triplets who were separated at birth, and they find each other when they're in their late teens.
Yeah, about come up to 20.
Like,
yeah.
one of them was at college, wasn't he? And he thought it was his other brother that he didn't know about.
And it's how they sort of develop, and then, the twists and turns that come with adoption of single, triplets, etc.
It's not where you think it's going.
That also had some very sinister fucking undertones midway through. Sound City.
Yeah.
It's about, I think, did Dave Grohl direct it?
I'll find out.
Possibly.
It's about a specific recording studio desk that has recorded.
He did, yeah.
Countless amazing albums. I think it was used for a couple of the Nirvana ones. Load of garbage stuff, Foo stuff. Loads of great stuff in the 80s and 90s. And the stories that come with that and the development of it and all of the narratives that run with like that piece of music history.
Yeah.
It's also got an amazing soundtrack. Like the people involved, you've obviously got like Dave Grohl, Trent Reznor's in it, Josh Homme's in it, Paul McCartney. There's countless fucking superstars who just turn up and sing songs with Grohl.
Is it true that so they made a Sound City album, right?
Yeah.
For soundtrack. So they recorded each track in a different studio with different people. Is that right?
No, they recorded it all in that studio with that mixing board.
Oh, I thought because they travelled everywhere.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to watch it then.
Without spoiling it.
Dave's a musician.
They do it all with that single board.
Right. Yeah. Old school.
And the soundtrack is amazing. Like some of those songs I will have on relatively regularly. And the last one I've got is probably of no interest to anyone other than fans of the band's descendants, and all but Filmage goes into the history of both those bands, particularly Bill Stevenson and Milo. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, those are fucking ton-load of documentaries for all of you to watch. Yeah, get on it. So, this is weird. We haven't done Film Out of the Hat today.
Yeah.
This is strange.
Film Out of the Hat next week is...
Don't forget, it's Eurotrip.
Eurotrip.
Oh, fuck off.
Scotty doesn't know. I had it on this week.
I don't.
The song, not the film.
I don't want to watch it.
It's good.
Can we watch Road Trip just so she doesn't sing that song?
I'm not against that, in fairness.
Good song.
Even though
Good
I don't
song.
like Road Trip as much as Eurotrip. No. Definitely not. Anyway, thanks for listening. Join us for After Dark tomorrow if you get a chance. Penny, what's our socials?
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Unusual Suspects Pod, and on Twitter at Unusual Podspect. I'm at Penny_photopit.
I'm at Dan Talksalt.
At Joyce's21.
We'll be back next week for more movie goodness for all you fans. We love you all. This is Dan signing out on 815 FM, The Night Shift.
The Nacho, did you say?
The Night Shift.
The Night
He's
Shift.
gone after dark already.
Oh, right.
It's too early.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone!
Yeah, see you later.